The Ruins is a 2008 horror movie directed by Carter Smith, and it stars Shawn Ashmore, Jenna Malone and Jonathan Tucker. My next Patreon request from David James Venter is 2008's The Ruins. Now, when he mentioned to me that he wanted me to review this one, he sent me a copy of it and I've watched it, and I'm really glad that he chose The Ruins for me to watch. I've seen this movie once in the cinema back in 2008, so that was 10 years ago. I've forgotten most things about it. I vaguely knew what it was about because I have seen the movie, but I was excited to watch it again because what I'd remember I really liked. It was a very simple movie with a very simple plot. It's about a group of tourists who are in Mexico, and half of them want to go exploring, but half of them just want to sit at the pool and drink all day. And that's not what the main character, Jonathan Tucker's character, wants to do. He wants to get out and explore. So this German guy comes over and says, "Look, listen guys, there's ruins out there that we want to see, but there's a ruin out there built by the Mayans that's not on the maps, but I've got a map to it and I want to go and have a look at it. Do you want to come with me?" And they all decided between them, "Do you know what, we will do it because it's our last day and there's nothing else to do. We don't want to just sit at the pool and drink on our last day." So they all decide to do it and go the next day. And then when they get there, that's when shit hits the fan very quickly. It just all escalates. They don't want them to leave because they think there's a curse and they'll all die. So they all trap this group of 6 people there. One of the group dies straight away, but then the other 5 get up to the top of the ruins, and that's where most of the movie takes place, at the top of the ruins. At the start of the film, I don't know if a lot of you noticed this, but at the start of the movie, at the end of some of the scenes, there was awkward silence. Nobody talks and you just see the distance, and that's like a sense of dread because we know as the viewer what's going to happen to these 4 main characters. There was a scene where they're in this taxi and the taxi like driving in the distance, and then everything just goes quiet and peaceful, and that's like the calm before the storm. That's what I interpreted it as. So the calm before the storm, and that's when everything starts to happen up at the top of the ruins. So it was great cinematography. I think that I don't know if the director chose that style or the cinematographer chose the style, but between them, whoever made that decision, I think it was beautifully shot. This is the first time for me watching the unrated version of this film. Obviously when I went to see it in the cinema, it was probably cut because there was things in this that I saw that I didn't see in the theatrical version. For example, when they were cutting off the German guy's legs, they had to cut his legs off because he fell and broke his back, and his legs were getting all septicemia or something, I think it was, so they had to cut his legs off. But when they'd done it, you actually seen them performing the surgery on him, and I don't remember seeing it that gruesome in the cinema, so I can see why this one's unrated, because the theatrical version cut all that out. Now going back to the story, the main story is with these vines. They've got some sort of power of them. Now what I appreciate about this film is that when it came out in 2008, there was a lot of realistic horror movies out there with a human killer. This didn't have a human killer in it. This had vines as the killer, so I think it was very unique for its time at least, and it was done very well, and I think that it was done in a way that you would actually believe that this could happen where these people are, where they're situated. So it didn't feel very unrealistic at all at any points. And you've got to remember, with movies like this with tourists going abroad, we've got movies like Hostel, Turistas, you know, these are all movies that are very realistic, and they're human killers that are killing these people, and they're done pretty well. But this one is a very similar movie. It's about the tourists that go abroad and they're getting killed, but they're killed by something that's inhumane, that's not human at all. So you would think that that would fail, but it doesn't. It was one of the better touristy movies. When I first seen Jonathan Tucker in a movie, it was back in 2003 with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Since that movie, I thought that, and I've kind of forgotten about him. He was in that one, Hostage, with Bruce Willis, and he was fantastic in that. And I remember I did like him in The Ruins, but when I watched it again, I thought, why is this guy still not acting in big movies? So I think he's a great generation actor for people of my age at that time, because he's only a year older than me, and I think he was fantastic in this. He was very believable, he was very calm all the way through the movie, and not just Jonathan Tucker, everybody else was great in it. Shawn Ashmore was great, Jenna Malone, I forgot Jenna Malone was in this movie until I seen it again, and she was great in the movie. She played the kind of scared character, and we all need them in these kind of horror movies, but she was good, she was great all the way throughout. So I think the casting choices for this film was on point. This is a spoiler obviously, but only one person gets out of the ruins, and that's Jenna Malone's character. She's on her way out, and very similar to what happens to the other characters in the film, as the movie is about to end, you can see the vines going through her face, and then it cuts. So we know that either she does survive and pass it on, or she just dies and nobody ever finds out what happens. But then at the very end of the movie, Dimitri, who is a Greek guy who went with the crew, he was the sixth person, and cuts. So you can assume that they die as well. So it doesn't tell you anything, it doesn't force feed you anything, it just lets the viewer decide for themselves what could happen next. Overall guys, I loved The Ruins. I thought it was one of the better movies of the past 10 years or 10 years ago, at a time when all these remakes were coming out and people were liking them, people were hating them, but The Ruins stood out for me. It wasn't a remake, it was just a unique horror movie that felt kind of isolated even though it was in the open wilderness. It was a great horror movie and it's one I would definitely recommend for anyone. So thanks to David for recommending me to review this horror movie. For those of you who want me to review horror movies as well, because I do get quite a lot of them, and the reason I do this is because I do get a lot of requests, is you have to be on the $10 or above Patreon tier on my Patreon page for me to review any horror movie of your choice. Anyway guys, thanks a lot for watching again, thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.